Hey there, and welcome to the A.D.K channel. I, of course, am Dave, and with me, as always, is Andy, and we have the wonderful band Planet Fatale. Welcome to the channel.
Hello.
Great to have you on. We saw you, Andy, how long ago was it? A couple of weeks now? I think a couple of Sundays back. Metal to the Masses, Heat number 2. Put on a great show. Thoroughly enjoyed watching you guys, and it's obviously great to have you on the channel to talk about the band. As is always the case with all bands, we always like to get a little bit of history about the band, and the first question is always about band names. We love to understand a band name. Now, obviously me and Andy know a little bit, but for anyone at home that's not too sure, could you explain a little bit about Planet Fatale, where the name came from, and more importantly, why did you choose it?
Seems like kind of ancient history now, but we basically were kind of looking at a name that would cover the kind of imagery themes that we're interested in the music. So we're very kind of keen on the imagery, the film element, the narrative, and we were kind of interested in like kind of B-movie kind of themes stuff. So we came up with the idea of like femme fatale, you know, also kind of like film noir kind of idea, but we wanted it to be more B-movie, and so after lots of discussion we ended up with Planet Fatale, basically, like, you know, Planet Terror, etc.
Yeah, I think we had a list of like 300 different names, and it's like, no, can't do it. Went round
299 of them were terrible
for weeks.
Yeah, we had a long list. It was quite a process to get to that point. If anybody needs any band names, we could
start side business creating band names for people.
Just start 50 side projects, I think.
Now, you're some of you guys were in a previous band, so Powderhead, but not all of you. So can you tell us a little bit about how Powderhead kind of then transitioned into becoming Planet Fatale, or how did this band come together?
Well, me, Hells, and Ollie started off doing Powderhead. How many years ago? Probably about 8 years ago or something.
Forever ago.
Yeah.
Was it 8?
Something like that. Yeah, mental. And then when the guitarists that we had left the band, and one moved to France and one left for another project or something, and when we got the new guitarists, Chris and Simon, in, we thought, oh, it's probably a good opportunity to, you know, get a bit heavier and, you know, change the name. So that's kind of where it went from there. You know.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, wasn't it? Because I kind of, when I joined along with Simon, and we joined on the same day, and it was clear, like right from the start, these guys were really clear that they wanted to move on from the Powderhead name actually pretty quickly, and it took us quite a long time to actually figure out how to do that. Find a name that we're all happy with. But I think that, you know, the sound of the band just changed a lot when me and Simon joined, and so it's, you know, for these guys, I think it felt like a different organization, you know, a different band completely, a new start.
It was definitely a new band and a new like kind of style of music, really. And I think, yeah, we had discussions in the first kind of like after the first practice of like, should we change name? And we really just ended up kind of gigging under the same name, Powderhead, for like a short period, because we just couldn't kind of get a name that we were completely happy with. And I think after we'd, you know, written the album and established our sound fully, it was kind of easier to do it, and it was just the right time. So that's kind of when we moved on.
Yeah, we didn't want to release the new album under the old name and then have to change it again later on, so got it in then.
Makes sense. Andy, over to you.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Hey,
Hey Andy.
Thanks for joining us here on the channel. My first question is regarding sort of songs and what would now be, because you've got a bank of songs and you treat us to half a dozen or so. Your performance at Hitchin the other week. Is there still a song that's always going to be first on the set list that you're always going to play for whatever reason? And I know your sets change. I've seen you so many times. different one almost every time. You bring in new songs, you bring back old ones. Is there one that's always going to be, you think, on the set?
Oh, I mean, there'll definitely be songs that are always in the set. I think Fight Club definitely is always there. But as for first songs, it changes all the time. Some songs we think they started as like our finisher. It was the best song we've ever done, and then over time it starts becoming an opener because you get better. We've been working together quite a few years now. We've really found each other's how each other works, and it just clicks. So the songs will change.
Yeah, when I mean the first song on the set, it's sort of a football analogy. The first player on the team sheet is the player who always plays. Is there a song that you'll always play, not necessarily the opener? Sorry,
probably Fight Club then, sure.
Yeah.
But that does change as well. I don't think we've ever dropped Fight Club yet. Maybe one.
Maybe
songs are in and out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've dropped it a couple of times when we were playing with very soft bands or something. Or playing a venue where we were thinking, there's going to be it's not our usual crowd,
Or an event when we weren't allowed to kind of swear or anything, because that kind of totally wipes that song out.
We weren't allowed to swear. I thought Shotgun Riders was going to be our that's that song actually. I thought that would be the song that we would always play, and I think we did always play it right from the start, because it was a song that you guys were working on when we joined. It was like the new song, but it's a banger, but we started missing it out because it's not heavy enough anymore. Is that?
It's progressed.
Yeah. Shotgun Riders Bleed, an interesting fact, were kind of written before we had any guitarists. So before Chris and Simon joined. So in like the days when we were just playing as a 3-piece, and so I think that's why you'll probably hear that they're quite like bass led, and. Yeah,
that's why the bass is so good on that track, isn't it? No guitarist to fight with.
Yeah, yeah. We play Shotgun Riders a lot still, I think, don't we?
Yeah, I was going through the photos on my phone the other day, and I found a video of us in the studio trying to figure out that song, like when we first wrote it, and it's similar, but a few dodgy notes in it back then.
There's definitely more chunk now. It's a lot more chunk.
That leads me nicely to my next question. What is the songwriting process in the band?
Well, I mean, we've literally just had a session on Tuesday where we were kind of basically working on 2 brand new songs that it was kind of just, the idea was to kind of do one. So we're kind of really close to kind of having finished writing album number 2 now, and we're basically... if we finish these couple of songs, I think we'll kind of be there, and we'll probably just kind of write extras. And so with those, what did we do? So there were 2 different ideas going around. So one of them, Simon had come up with like this really cool kind of like guitar riff intro section, which he kind of played to us, and we all really liked it. And then we were kind of like looking at that and kind of exploring how we could maybe, what to do with that. Should it be the beginning? Should it be the chorus? That kind of thing. So looking at the structure, looking at what can complement it. We were discussing this time about, having like a kind of like harmonic vocal melody over it and so on. And then there was another idea that Miller had written a bass kind of line to. So he'd kind of written this kind of bass riff, which I think Simon calls a motif rather than a riff. And it was, so we were kind of playing over that, and again, just kind of looking at making it into a structure, deciding like, do we want to kind of have that as the main focus? Is it going to be a chorus bit? And then, kind of adding to it from there. And then we all get together at that point and start adding our own bits and influences, and yeah.
It's a band effort rather than somebody bringing like an almost complete song to the rehearsal room and say,
"Oh yeah,
guys."
Yeah,
I mean, it's a discussion as well. It's like ideas, and we always talk it out, figure it out. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, but that's part of the process.
Yeah, there's usually a riff, isn't there, as a starting point? Somebody usually brings a riff in, just one riff, and then but it doesn't really become the song until we all kind of attack it at the same time, and we start playing it, and we just try things. And sometimes, like, Ollie will just try something like completely weird on the drums, and because that happened in one of the songs recently, one of the new ones. Ollie just came up with something completely different for the drums, and it's like, that's brilliant. That's it. That's absolutely fantastic. And suddenly it sounded really different. And then we all just kind of add our own bits. And then there comes a point when we try and record a rough version all the way through. And sometimes it's a disaster, but sometimes we actually manage to record like a really, really good early version, and then it just gets tighter and tighter every time we play it after that point.
And talking about with Ollie's drums, that actually we kind of managed to basically get an entire structure and play all the way through on the first practice. And
that was really weird, wasn't it? There was that one song that I think we pretty much performed its final version all the way through once Ollie had figured out that drum beat. That's unusual though, isn't it? That's quite unusual.
Yeah, that's quite an achievement. That.
We're getting more in tune. I think we're getting more in tune with each other.
It probably helped because we're going to write a shorter song this time instead of 5, 6, 7 minute wonder,
Yeah, we start off with the ambition of writing 3-minute songs or something, and then we end up like 6 minutes in. And another thing is, so we start mainly with bass riffs, guitar riffs, but on 2 occasions there's been the real challenge of me bringing a vocal melody and riff to it, and we build the song from that. And that's always kind of the more challenging. But so Break For You was one of those, and one of the new songs, the really long epic one, The Brink, which is spoiler alert.
Well, there's actually a new song at the moment that has 4 bars where there's no music because we haven't figured it out yet, but there is lyrics. Yeah. Well, there's kind of a vocal melody. And then there's 8 bars again of vocals, but we have no song yet.
Yeah, we kind of we like to mix it up. And don't forget the whiteboard. The absolute hero of the journey is the whiteboard.
Sure.
Yes.
We've got a
real different way of, lots of different ways of creating your songs from what you've said there by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a big whiteboard in the studio, and so when we're kind of going through it and we kind of working out the structure, we kind of write it down and write how many bars we're doing, and then we kind of go, actually, let's change that, and we'll kind of alter it kind of halfway through.
On its head and again,
My last question may have a very short answer, depending on what your view is on it. You've got a raft of songs, a whole album's worth. Album number 2 is virtually written and complete, with a few more perhaps to do. Would you ever bring back into the live set some of the classic Powderhead ones, or rework any of those for future songs?
You're asking about War Machine, aren't you?
Well, not necessarily that one. There's others, but yeah. That's the one I always shout out for people playing.
Probably not is the short answer on that one. No. I guess that's shorter. There is a drum beat that you can't really hear on that album because the production was dire. That I might bring back, just one beat that I want to keep and take over. But other than that, it's what spawned this whole thing. But it belongs there now.
Yeah.
Told you it'd be a short answer. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I tried to make it longer.
Okay, so big final question from us then is we're now we're about to go into month number 4 of 2023. So a quarter of it's already gone. So what's the plans for the rest of this year? We've heard that you've obviously written quite a lot of the tracks. So will we be looking to get this album out this year? We've got plans for a rough of shows around the country or staying local. We've got new music videos. What's the plans?
So we've got a tour coming up now. So next up is a festival date. We're playing Heaven and Hell Fest in mid-April. And then we basically, after that, we just go on we've got about 7 dates kind of in a row with playing a lot of gigs with Stormbringer on their 10-year anniversary tour. So that should be fun. And this will give us a really good chance to just basically play live all of these new songs that we've been writing, which we find is quite helpful before we record it, you know, kind of like iron out any kind of things that we kind of think, oh, actually, we could probably improve that.
It's really good for writing solos and things, because you never really get the real feeling of a solo when you're in the practice room playing it, but when you whop it out on stage or something, you can really hone it and stuff. Trial
by fire.
Yeah. And you realise what you can do under pressure.
And then I guess it's the next step really is the recording process. I mean, the idea, you know, we'd love to record towards the kind of end of the summertime, but we need to get, you know, the studio booked in yet. We haven't done that bit yet, so we're kind of like, we don't know exactly when it's going to be recorded, but ideally, in an ideal world, we'd kind of record it towards the end of the summer, maybe release something this year, but probably not the full album. That would probably be next year.
Fair enough. Well, I just want to say a big thank you from both myself and Andy for coming on the A.D.K channel today, talking about the band and your plans for the future. For everyone watching, this is obviously Planet Fatale. Go check them out. Go check them out on the show. They're always playing live, so you can guarantee you will find them playing. Go check them out on their website. Check them out for their live shows. And a big thank you to Planet Fatale.
No, thank you for having us.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.